don't get me wrong. Learning things, it's important. You have to learn things, but it's like, if you only learn and do not implement, then your focus is going to be somewhere else.
Welcome to the High Voltage Business Builders Podcast, a show where we interview high voltage entrepreneurs growing and scaling through e-commerce, real estate, and other wealth without Wall Street ventures, showing you the path to making your first or next million. Everybody, welcome back to the High Voltage Business Builders Podcast. If you want to help us beat big tech, that'd be appreciated. So like, share, comment, leave some likes, comments, shares, leave some likes, comments, and shares. If I don't say it 3 times, you're not going to hear me or do any action. So I'm going to repeat myself multiple times, as I always do in these podcasts. But I have an interesting guest today. I have someone who's going to talk about accountability and business building around the Amazon e-com interface. And I'm also going to welcome him here as a Voltage client and as a case study. So with that, I want to preface this conversation by asking you, were you incentivized, manipulated, or otherwise forced and coerced to come on this call with me today?
Hey, Neil, what's up? Thank you for having me. No, not at all.
Nope. Okay, like I said, checks in. No, I'm just kidding. But in all seriousness, Lenin is his own man, as you'll learn from this call today. And he has been doing Amazon for more than 5 years. Is that a correct statement?
Correct. Since 2015, actually.
So he's been in this for quite a while. So he's got some history and some strength and some knowledge. So I want to start off by asking you a little bit about your experience in this e-commerce world. Did you get started there, or did you start somewhere else?
Well, actually, I started back in the day sending emails and learning about copywriting, email marketing, that kind of stuff. That was, I would say, my first steps into the online world. Actually, one of my students, because I learned this stuff, to write copy, doing email marketing, affiliate marketing, and I started my own program, actually. So one of my students, then he came back to me one of the days after he was making good money. He was making like $10K a month after going through my program. I was really happy, really proud of him. But he said, you know what, Lenin, I don't like this. I don't want to keep sending emails. So I was really looking into something, and I think I found it. I'm doing Amazon. I didn't know what it was all about back in the day. And he said, would you like to join me? And I was like, hey, are you selling me into your own coaching program, or what's the deal?
Well, yeah. Skepticism kicks in. Yeah.
Yeah. Actually, he was sort of. He was trying to get me to purchase from his affiliate link. I think it was Amazing Selling Machine type of program. Yeah, or it was exactly that. So I was like, okay, cool. Let's see. How much is it going to run me? And he said, oh, it's going to be like 5K or something. And I was like, okay. So you really went through this. So why don't we do this? Why don't you teach me? Why don't you coach me? And we go half and half. And he said, okay, let's do it. And that's basically how I got started. That was my introduction into the Amazon world, actually.
Yeah. Well, and since then, you've obviously been involved in a number of products and businesses within the Amazon world. What would you say, just from your own experience now, with the breadth of experience that you've had, is something you may be passionately willing to debunk now, that maybe people are saying about, Amazon and saturation of products and FBA and physical private label versus other models? What's something you maybe would feel passionate about debunking now that you've got some experience?
That's a great question. So I guess it is saturated if we're looking for the cheap products, for the $10, $5, $20 products. That would be, a market that's sort of saturated. But even so, there's always new products coming to the market. So I might doubt myself about the argument that I just said. But definitely, Amazon is growing by leaps and bounds, and I don't think we have reached that point where we can call it that, like, saturation. I think it's more like knowing exactly how to find the great products, and be willing to go like the extra mile, and not just what the gurus are saying, right? But really trusting guys that know what they're doing and that they're actually doing the stuff that they're preaching, like you guys in Voltage. Yep.
How much have you actually spent in coaching and programs and other things trying to figure it out along the way?
A lot of money, like 100K so far.
Like 100K? Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's one way to figure it out. Did you glean something from each of those? Or, it wasn't a total loss, right?
No, never it's a loss. You always learn. When you appreciate different perspectives and different people talking about the same subject, you can see that you're always learning, you're always growing. Perhaps the results are not going to show up right then and there, but that new piece of knowledge that you got perhaps going to help you in the future. So for me, investing in myself is always a good thing, even if I don't get the results I want immediately.
So why would you say maybe Voltage is an Amazon growth consultancy versus a course program, et cetera, is a little different than what you've experienced in the past? And
Man.
why?
Man.
Oh man, are you all right?
100%. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, you have to stop me because I'm not going to stop.
You're going to gush.
So,
okay, keep gushing.
Yeah.
Your story, not mine, man.
So, I've been through different programs, like from courses, like really cheap courses, like $100, $1,000 courses. And then even coaching, $1,000 a month, $2,000 a month coaching programs. Compared to Voltage, you can see value immediately. And it just based off of what I did when I joined you guys, the first thing I got from you was a mindset shift, being able to see things in a different perspective, And I realized that even though I had when I joined you guys, that was last year, that was since 2015, that was 7 years, right, of experience, but I was doing things wrong. Like you mentioned, some people that even when they have a lot of time here, they don't have the fundamentals right. And to me, that was really something that stuck out, when we had a conversation. And I realized that you were right, because if I keep doing the same thing over and over again, I was not gonna be able to get the results that I'm getting right now. And for me and for the business, really joining Voltage was life changing. First, because of the mindset shift, and also because of the clarity that I got, and third, for the tools that you guys provide, and also the support system that you have in place. And it's really simple. Instead of working in the business, I'm working on the business. I was spending too much time watching, my PPC, watching over my PPC like 4 hours a day, doing crazy stuff.
It doesn't change.
That wasn't really. Yeah. Wasn't really helping me move the needle
over your PPC. Is some other people were.
Yeah. And actually, in one of those programs, we had these Q&As, these weekly calls, and an ongoing conversation, and people were just talking about it. And I thought, you know what? Yeah. That's what we have to do. We have to talk about trying to figure out how it works, try to figure out how this black box really works and get the most out of it. Crazy stories from people, managing the PPC down to the detail, like keyword for keyword, put in one keyword per campaign and crazy stuff like that. I was really obsessing about it and wasting my time. And then when I talked to you guys, I said, hey, Lenin, you don't have to do it. Just use this software and these are going to handle the PPC for you. And you don't have to spend any more time on that. And you can focus on launching more products, which is basically where the money is. And I was like, okay. Yeah. But I didn't understand that. I understand it before, even though, perhaps I heard it, but it didn't make sense because there was so many perspectives, point of views. And another thing that's important is that some of these programs, they try to push content like every day, teach a new thing every day. That's because they have to, right? They have a membership or something that you have to keep paying. And that's how they keep you inside of their systems, right? But you don't need that. You don't need all that information. You just need a playbook, a clear playbook that's step by step, like the one Voltage have. And that's it. That's all you need. Just focus on that. Focus on the playbook. You're going to actually start hitting your goals, at least from my experience.
Kind of lightens the load a little when you realize that there's this mental mindset for paying for certain things and then expecting certain results. And then you constantly get anxious if they're not coming fast enough. And so you think that if I keep touching it, I can make it go faster. When in actuality, sometimes you just need to rest, which I think is ironic. And I'm glad to hear you doing that now, because what you're realizing is I'm more specific and tactical to the things I should change. And then I've, slapped hands and left everything else alone and stopped touching it. Because it's really hard. And it's ironic because people end up in the mindset that they've got to trade time for money again to make this business grow faster, when in actuality, the opportunity is to step out, walk away, go play with your kids, go have fun, go for a ride, do something else. Like, you have the opportunity to do that time now. Stop trying to push things into that same trading time for money format. Does that make sense to you when I say it that way?
Yeah, that makes sense. And I also remember talking to Reed about this, and I was saying, you know what, I need to hire people, and I need to hire people to grow. And he said, not really. You didn't have to really hire people. I run my business pretty much. It's myself, and I think it's his wife and himself, and that's it. And I was like, hey, I'm doing the same thing. So how can I not grow to the same size, or perhaps not the same size, but close to, perhaps even higher than $1 million a month, a year, sorry. So why not? If Reed can do it, and he has the process formula system, and he's open enough to give those systems to me so I can implement those in my business, I can definitely do the same. And I don't need to be like a 10 people or 10 person kind of a company in order to grow. I can do it myself because actually you don't have to spend that much time in the business.
We've entered the stage of 1 to 2 person companies that reach 5 to 10 million a year in annual revenue. And we've proven that. Our case studies have proven that, it can reach 5 million a month. The opportunity is much more vast and expansive than people realize. And sometimes it's hard for them to grasp those big, hairy, audacious goals of saying, okay, could I make $1 million a month? Yes. How long it takes you to get there is one thing. How much capital you have to deploy to get there is another, but it's still doable. And so I think that if you can start shedding some of those limiting beliefs and start realizing it's possible through groups of people you're connected with, through mentors and coaches who are actually doing it, then you actually can level yourself up. One of the frustrating things I see with people who come in and chat, and maybe this resonates with you, was they're constantly talking to all the same people who are all struggling at the same level, and no one is above or pushing them to go higher than they are. And so they all commiserate in this area while their businesses suffer. And I've seen that over and over again, especially with existing sellers. They have this idea there's nothing new to learn. I haven't found any products that can work. There's not a different process, and there's no opportunity in this model, and they fail out. What do you say to that now that you've come to some experience in this?
Don't get me wrong. Learning things, it's important. You have to learn things, but it's like, if you only learn and do not implement, then your focus is going to be somewhere else instead of doing the things that you have to be doing in order to grow your business. So that's how I see it right now.
Execute. We were talking about that yesterday. Like, yell it out 3 times, right? Do something imperfect, and something perfect will happen along the way. How many times you've heard me say that? Like, I repeat that continuously to people. Because the fear of failure and trying and failing sometimes is worse than just saying, I'm going to fail or stop or quit or just disappear, because I can handle that failure better than the one in which I try and it didn't work.
Exactly.
Yeah. It's a challenge.
Yep.
Yeah, it is. But you obviously did that. And one of the bigger things I think that we need to share here is, while you were an existing seller, you were not as profitable as you should have been.
No. My profit margins were like under 9%, perhaps like 8, 7.
So on $1 million in sales, you're down below 50.
$1 million in sales. Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I realized that sales revenue is just a vanity metric, right? I can say, I'm making $1 million, but if I'm just making like 7, 8, 9%, it's not that much when you think about it. It's good money, don't get me wrong, but still, to get to the $1 million, it was really tough, for me to grow from 0 to that amount. But what I learned along the way, and just a couple of things that I also wanted to share, is that I was lucky enough to be in contact with, when I started this business with my student, right? He became my business partner, and we actually sold our first business, and we were planning to sell it for $1 million. Right. And we actually got a check of $1 million. The only problem was that it was just like a photocopy of the check. Oh. You know what I mean?
Like one of those big photocopies you get from Publishers Clearinghouse.
Yeah. It was so crazy.
Vanity check.
My friend said, "Hey, Lenny, we got a check, but you have to see this. Let me show you." He sent me like the picture,
right,
or the screenshot of the check, but it was crazy. We ended up selling it for $300K, $150 each. Wasn't like a bad deal. So I'm really proud about that, because we went through the process of selling our business. And based off of that, I was able to sell like another small brand for $50K. So, and then basically, I realized that that's when you make the money, right? When you exit. We were doing well. We were making I remember having like this, because Amazon pays you every 14 days, right? Mm-hmm. Getting those disbursements of like 10, 5K, 10K, even 20K some months. So that was amazing. It was good money, right? And mostly that was profit. We were sharing profits, but perhaps we got too confident, too cocky, and we let the business die off a little bit. And that was the reason why we couldn't sell it for $1 million at that point. Yeah, but I learned my lesson. I also made good money, so I'm not complaining about that.
But there is more in your business usually, isn't there? Especially for existing sellers. I don't think they understand what's setting right in front of them when they have sales. Like there's one thing to get started and get sales. Okay, that's one hurdle. There's another thing to get into growth mode. And there's another thing to be profitable, isn't there?
Yes.
From profitable to growth is a very different jump. When you can't pay yourself enough and pay the business, you start to stagnate, you capitulate things in the business, and eventually it'll, find itself falling down in the market if you don't grow. Where have you come in the last 16, 17 months and starting with us from that 9% in profit?
Oh, yeah, definitely. I mean, what I learned is that the main focus was to start bringing in new products with higher profit margin. I mean, even when it sounds like it's just obvious, it wasn't, at least not to me, I was more in the game of pushing sales, trying to get more units per day, focusing on that, because we were told that if you dominate certain niches or keywords, then you're going to make a lot of money later on. But that never happened, so I started transitioning into really focusing on products with better profit margin. We're not there where we want to be. So we grew from 9%, that was 2021. Then when we joined Voltage, we started thinking of a thing here and there, adding a couple of products. And then we hit it was from 9% to 12%. And right now we are at 15%. And hopefully adding more products to our product line, we're going to be closer to 20%, perhaps by the end of the year, hopefully. But yeah, I mean, that's the goal, to keep growing consistently month after month, year after year.
Well, how much of a different saleable asset have you got from 9% to a 20% business at that point? At least a couple more points in the business valuation, which is a big win should you decide to sell it. But at this point, you also have more capitalization for yourself, but for the business, don't you? So what's that roadmap now in your vision changing look like in the coming year?
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking to sell my business this time really for $1 million. That's what I want, but not for a photocopy of a check, but
for an actual wire deposit of $1 million.
Yeah, that's our goal. I'm not gonna say short term, but we think we can get there perhaps by the end of the year. We might start thinking about the idea of selling it if we hit our KPIs or our projections in terms of sales and revenue, sales and profits, So
that puts you around 24 months in with us to a possible $1 million exit from your business. Not a bad
Potentially.
Deal. Not a bad deal. Dude, congrats for the work. Look, I would love to say it was all Voltage. It's not. I know we shared some things with you and we've given you some insights, but really at the end of the day, we could have told you a lot of things and you would have decided not to act on them. I tell people I can lead a horse to water, but I can't make it drink. And you drank the water, you followed the process, you were willing to be coachable, you listened and you executed. And even imperfectly, you figured it out. And now you're your own guy headed in your own direction. And it's an honor just to be a part of your experience, to be a part of your testimony, and just to see you become the guy who is so much more confident now than when we discussed this, 16 months ago, which is very fun to watch, man. So thank you for that. It's an honor and a privilege to represent you today.
No, definitely. And I appreciate you guys for all you have done for me, and not only the mindset shift. I mean, believe it or not, I was really between a rock and a hard place when I joined you guys, because I saw that I had perhaps 7, 8, 9% profit margin, but it was going down. If I kept that route, I would have been here right now talking to you, at all. Perhaps I wouldn't have any business.
Well, you do now, and it's all upside from here, my man. So let's get out there and crush it. Thank you so much for joining me, man. I appreciate your story today and sharing some good news. All right, guys, we'll get in, share, comment. If you got any questions for Lenin about some of the things he did, please ask in the comments here, YouTube, etc. And of course, like I said, share, comment, subscribe if you want to hear more of these updates on Apple Podcast and otherwise. God, we'll see you on the next episode. Thanks so much for joining me. If you like this episode, please share it with people you think will enjoy it as well. Thank you for listening, and be sure to tune in next week for a brand new episode of High Voltage Business Builders.